How did you prepare yourself, first of all, to get the opportunities that you were seeking, and then to excel in the opportunities once you were there?
I felt like I had to break some barriers also as a black professional when I was younger. I didn't see as many people that look like me. Those experiences all kind of built up my resume, but it also built up my confidence in terms of I can do this, I can do that.
Historically, we've always been kind of mentally conditioned to think that we needed to have more than what was required for an opportunity. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, oh boy, you're going to have a slippery slope here on this one, right? So yeah, I think I'll get some supporters and some haters on this response, right? Many times you'll hear people say, well, I'm not sure I have all the qualifications for that job. And you know what?
Man, you opened up a whole lot right there. Okay, so I don't want to lose track of what I want to talk about. As we kind of stay on the topic of your professional journey, something I noticed about your journey too is that you're very versatile. And I think versatility, given the change and everything we've talked about, is very important today. How did you prepare yourself, first of all, to get the opportunities that you were seeking, and then to excel in the opportunities once you were there? Let's talk about the preparation process because you can have an opportunity, but if you're not ready and you're not prepared, it can maybe go the wrong direction. So, can you share a little bit about your thought process with preparing yourself for your next step, and how you kind of went about that?
Yeah, one of the things in terms of I've always thought about how do you build up your resume? How do you build up your skill set? Um, but you can do that, but that's within the confines of the organization I'm working with, right? And that gets back to when we are talking about the three things in terms of networking, talking with others. In all honesty, I felt like I had to break some barriers also as a black professional when I was younger, like joining my country club and networking within the country club. And moving to areas that I didn't see as many people that look like me. And so you know those experiences all kind of built up my resume, but it also built up my confidence in terms of I can do this, I can do that. Because many times you'll hear people say, well, I'm not sure I have all the qualifications for that job. And you know what? If you have 50, 60, 75% of the qualifications, you know, sell yourself in terms of filling in the other 25%. I used to always hear this adage from my coach when I was younger. It's like commit and hit. And and it doesn't mean I'm going to be successful, but my mindset was I can actually go and do that. It doesn't mean inside I wasn't a little fearful, right? Even when I joined Randstad and took on a pretty big job 10 years ago, there was a little bit of fear of taking on a role within an industry that I didn't grow up in. But I think that adrenaline actually is powerful because you lean on your past experiences, but the adrenaline gives you the energy to dig a little deeper, to learn the new subject matter, to learn the new team, to learn the new organization, the way
Yeah.
of doing things. Um, and so versatility, it's interesting. We talk about versatility and changing roles, but versatility a little bit is kind of having the courage to just go and do new and different things. Um, and it's okay to have a little bit of that fear factor. I actually think that's healthy. I mean, it's kind of interesting because if you're not a little nervous taking on a new role or a new job, um, maybe it isn't big enough for you. Maybe it isn't the step
Right.
up, and maybe it's too lateral. And so whenever I have that rush, that fear in terms of taking on something new, or even doing a presentation, even later in my career, you still get that adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
That's what drives us to continue to grow and be better for the organization we're working with.
So really, you should lean into that fear.
Which is, you know what? It's what's the worst that can happen, right? And I'm not saying you're going to hit a home run every time you take on a project or a new role, right? I've failed in roles in my past as well, but you got to go in with the proper mindset that, hey, I'm going to do well here. Otherwise, it's a why even go if you don't think can succeed in your own mind.
Yeah, man, you opened up a whole lot right there. Okay, so I don't want to lose track of what I want to talk about. So
All right.
the first thing I wanted to ask you about was you mentioned you've got maybe 80% of the listed qualifications for an opportunity. Go for it. Try to sell yourself on the rest. Okay, you talked about your experience as a black professional. So a lot of us, when I mean as a black professional myself, when you look at an opportunity, something about our experience or what people have told us has said we need to be overqualified in order to get the opportunity. And how should we navigate that? Because you've done it. You've done it. So obviously that's inspirational to those of us who are looking to maybe advance to a few more levels up, that we can go for those opportunities, even if we might be lacking a few things. But historically, we've always been kind of mentally conditioned to think that we needed to have more than what was required for an opportunity. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, oh boy, you're going to have a slippery slope here on this one, right? So yeah, I think I'll get some supporters and some haters on this response, right? But for me, when I first took on my first president's role, I'll talk about taking on that role. I didn't think I was qualified, right? Because I had never done it before, and I didn't check all the boxes.
Okay.
Um, but the one thing that I thought I could bring to the table is, and maybe it's kind of this sports upbringing I have as well, is I could bring this team together and collectively we could do better than any one individual. So maybe somebody could have been a better singular president, but I thought I could be a better leader. And in my mind, I believe that. Even though I was like, I didn't have all the qualifications, for the title. Um, so I actually exceeded because I wasn't focused on every bullet point. I was focused more on how I could actually succeed in the role as opposed to check the competencies of every single bullet point, and I sold myself on that.
Okay.
And
So
that's been a pretty constant in my career because I've jumped into different industries, and so I never could claim to be quote unquote a subject matter expert more than probably somebody else. But
okay.
I could show a track record of, hey, I could take a failing business and I could turn it around and I could create a high performing leadership team. And once you have that, you can overcome almost anything, right? Well, I mean, it's the same in sports as in business. If you got a really damn good team, I'm not talking about an all-star player, a team, you're going to win more than you're going to lose. And I truly believe that. I've always believed that, even growing up and playing ball through college. And it applies in the business world as well. When I worked at Randstad, I felt like we had a high performing team. And it's amazing how people get on board because they believe in the leadership, because they're unified and they're going after a common goal, right? So I sold myself on some of those attributes, Jonathan, as opposed to I got to check the box and, did I go to an Ivy League? Did I do this? Did I do that? No knock on Notre Dame, but, I didn't fit the mold.
Okay. So
But
let's lean into that. So because you versus the whether or not it's possible conversation, because you've shown that it is possible, and maybe different situations are different than others, right? But you've shown it's possible to sell yourself on the things that you're lacking on the boxes, right? By leaning into what you believe you have.
right,
So belief.
belief.
How much of this is about what you believe you can do and what's possible, and how much of that belief can be transferred to the person you're interviewing with through your confidence.
Well, at the end of the day, I believe if you take this approach and lean into what you truly think you can bring to the party to make it successful, um, you're naturally going to bring a lot more of your authentic self to the table, right? So, um, and and if you are successful getting the role, then it's so much easier to continue to be your authentic self and not try to pretend to be somebody you were in an interview.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, um, I'm still the same person and I'm going in with the same beliefs in terms of how to be successful in the role, as opposed to trying to answer the questions I think the person, given the answers I think they want to hear. So I'm going in feeling free and feeling authentic. And if you start well, you can have a higher probability of ending well. If you don't, it's really, really difficult to continue to climb that hill. So, um, I also have this belief is, I am Bob Lopes. This is who I am. And I think I have strong enough conviction in myself that if it's not being well received on the other end, then it's probably not the right opportunity for me anyhow. So.
Okay.
I've gone in where, hey, is this a good job fit? But I also gone in earlier in my career like I really want this job, as opposed to later in a career, it's like, let me make sure this fits well. If it doesn't, it's easier to walk away. Um, when I lost my job and I had to go find another job, I had a level of desperation I never had in my life, like looking for a job, right? So you tend to be a little more cautious and careful in your responses because as opposed to showing them why they should want me, I kind of went in first with this attitude of don't blow it.
Okay.
And I had to change my approach because the don't blow it, um, I think I probably came across as everybody else.
Hmm.
And And what do you bring into the table that's unique, or what's unique about you that could be appealing to the person that your organization you're talking to? So, um, I learned a lesson there in terms of, yeah, maybe inside I really need this. I have to support my family, but how I go about getting it, I really changed that part of it. Not the inside, I still had this feeling of I need to get this job, but my approach changed when I realized that taking the very safe approach in interviewing and talking to people wasn't really yielding me the benefits that I was desiring at the time.
Oh, okay. And that don't blow it mindset coming from fear. So you're operating in a completely different energy than when you're thinking about what you bring to the table and demonstrating your confidence in your ability. Your energy is different. So I would
No
imagine
question
that would
about it.
translate. Yeah.
No question about it. Yeah. And I'm a high energy person. So maybe a little less so now, but 10, 15, 20 years ago. I'm very high energy. I love interacting with people, and that's where I get my juice from.
Yeah.
It's like the people. My wife says, it's you can't be alone, right? I'm a person that can't be alone. She can sit and read a book and be by herself all day. I need to be interacting with people, and if that kind of energy doesn't come across, I don't think the real me comes across. So,
Got it. Okay. That's funny because my wife and I are flipped. So it's funny how opposites attract because she's
yeah,
the extrovert around people person and I'm the kind of I can be by myself person.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.